Litigation isn't a matter of if, it's when. And when it comes, your ability to respond quickly and defensibly can make or break your case, your credibility, and of course, your budget. In this episode, we're taking on a question I hear all the time. What does true litigation readiness look like? My name is Jenny Hamilton. I am the General Counsel at Exterro and host of Data Xposure. Joining me today is Patrick Butts, Director of Legal Operations and Information Governance at Hilltop Securities. At Hilltop Securities, Patrick has helped design a new litigation readiness playbook that goes beyond deadlines, systems that embed defensibility and drive real efficiency across legal and IT. We'll talk about the hidden friction points that slow us down in our legal response and how to align cross-functional teams before we get to the crisis. And yes, we'll also talk about where eDiscovery fits into the bigger picture of readiness. So let's get into it. Welcome, Patrick. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you, Jenny. It's a pleasure to be here, and I'm humbled. I consider myself in the presence of eDiscovery royalty, so it's an honor. It really is a privilege to be here, and I'm humbled to be asked to join. So thank you.
Well, thank you for that. And you're a fellow Texan. We've talked about this. I'm from Southeast Texas. You're from a whole different place called East Texas. And in fact, you're from St. Augustine. And I understand there's a long-running debate about whether St. Augustine or Nacogdoches is the oldest town in Texas. And I'm curious, where do you fall on that?
So yeah, I'm from what we call, you may have heard, the Pine Cone Curtain down in East Texas. I was born and raised and grew up in St. Augustine. And yeah, to this day, there's the debate on which town is the oldest, St. Augustine or Nacogdoches. So as my father-in-law says, I like either, I'll take both. I actually went to college at Stephen F. Austin State University in Nacogdoches, but I have to say, I think it makes sense that St. Augustine is the oldest town in Texas, because if you're coming east to west, you come to St. Augustine first once you cross into Texas. So, but
I love it.
I'm partial to both. Yeah, that's right. Whether it's right or wrong.
Key evidence.
That's right. That's right. It's a beautiful area. So
Absolutely stunning. And
well, we still have family property there, and when I need to be therapeutic, which is, in this industry, it's probably daily. So I still go down and drive around on tractors and bulldozers and get some of that frustration out. So it's a great place to relax at.
Do you offer that to the public, the greater eDiscovery community? I feel like we need to have a retreat.
Yeah, we should have the Exterro exchange down in East Texas. Just have it out in the open, and instead of car bashing, we'll do tractor driving or something.
I think there may be some liability to that, Patrick. I don't know about that.
I actually, it's funny. ChatGPT helped me draft an indemnification and a waiver, so I have one ready to go.
I love it. I love it. Well, I'm curious. Let's talk about the legal side of things now that you brought up indemnification. You started your career as a paralegal, and you've spent a number of years in that role. Before the current general counsel that you have now personally recruited you. And I would love to know, how did that relationship develop and what made you say yes to this job?
Well, he and I both were working. I was in the corporate transactions department in a relatively large law firm here in Dallas, and he came on as a new associate in that area. And paralegals, we did some training to help them get up to speed, new attorneys, and great guy. And he had been there about 10 years and then left, and I personally was saddened. But about a year later, he called me and said, "Would you be interested in coming over and being a paralegal? We need a corporate transaction paralegal." And I'm like, I don't know. I'm not. He was in the securities business, and I'm like, I don't know. I'm not sure I know much about that. He said, "Just come and talk to us." And I did, and that's right. and that was 20 almost 21 years ago. He was not the general counsel at the time, but has been subsequently to me joining, become the general counsel. And why I did it was, number one, he and I just worked well together, and there was a lot more upward mobility inside corporation, a corporate law firm, then in a paralegal at a law firm.
Mm.
And his mentality was, you can do just about as much as you feel big enough to do. He really gave me the reins to take flight. And it was an industry that I didn't know anything about, which was exciting to me because every day's a challenge, but it's a very rewarding industry.
And in fact, he took that opportunity and he ran with it. My understanding is when you had some M&A activity, you were part of the more advanced eDiscovery program across the combined entities. And I'm curious, tell us a little bit more about that, including how it positioned you and what it's meant for you going forward in your career.
Sure. Well, obviously, as you can imagine, being in the financial services, we're in a very heavily regulated industry. And back in the early 2000s, we were, I should say, the recipients of a internal investigation. It was more of a sweep. What a sweep that the regulators would come in and do sweeps of broker dealers and investment advisors, and we were subject to that. And we were spending about $2,500 a gig back in early 2000s for collection, processing, and review. And it was just something, I'm not that good at math, but I could do that math. It was really unsustainable from a,
Yeah.
I mean, it would take just thousands, if not more, of money. So we looked at bringing eDiscovery in-house at that time, and we did. And through the processes of mergers and acquisitions, we became, I would say, probably the most advanced, if not the most top advanced, because we'd been doing it for so long. We had a process in place, although it was, to use an East Texas vernacular, it was probably with duct tape and baling wire. I mean, but it worked. We always had room for improvement, but it worked. And we used really, and we did have a playbook at that way back when we had a playbook, and we used the maturity of our organization really to build out what we have now.
We're going to come back to that playbook. So let's talk about your time getting to this place where you're running an advanced show. And we've talked about the relationship between legal and IT. It's one of our favorite things. And in your words, it's the most important relationship in legal operations. It's a strong statement, and I'm curious, like, what has cemented that for you?
Well, I think IT and legal specifically speak such different languages. I have found, being in as a paralegal for probably over 30 years now, when you walk the halls, or when I walk the halls here at the firm, people, they're almost afraid. They're like, "Oh, don't make eye contact. Don't say anything. You'll get called illegal." And I think that was a mindset really with IT, because they were afraid that either if they said something, it would be wrong, or if they didn't say something, we would just slap them with a ruler. And that's just not the case. And I think one of the many beauties of eDiscovery is it really brings the two business lines together, because you have to. You really have to. When we implemented Exterro a few years ago, it was the first thing I started looking for. Who in IT is going to help with this? Because it's just such an incredibly important relationship. And once IT realized what legal was asking and what legal wanted, and then legal from the perspective of looking at IT of their concerns and what they wanted to accomplish, it's like, the lights went off on both sides. And it's like, okay, we can do this. We can do it from an IT side, and absolutely we can do that from a legal perspective. And I have to quote my dear friend Rich Robinson. We want, from the legal department here at Hilltop Securities, we want to be a KNOW department, not a no department. Rich said that a few years ago, and it really has resonated with me, because we do want to know what's going on, and we want to cultivate an environment here. And thanks to the GC I work for, it's like, come to us. We want to talk. We would rather know about it on the front end than try to defend something on the back end. And I think that mentality spreading across, starting with IT, honestly, has really bridged a lot of gaps. And some of my closest friends here at the firm are in IT.
And in fact, you probably built that relationship up through a lot of conversations, and you believe in a 1 hour standing weekly meeting between legal and IT. And I'm curious what the call looks like. Who's there? What do you talk about?
So that really started when we were doing our implementation. We had our project management team kind of overseeing, which I won't go there. But anyway, we had IT and legal on a weekly call, and it was just, it was just wonderful. And then once the implementation was done, we changed it to the implementation call to my title was eDiscovery call. And I sent the
Mm,
invitation out and nobody was joining. Nobody from IT was joining. I'm like, what? Honestly, it was the term. They were afraid of the term
mm,
eDiscovery. So I literally changed the title of the call to IT legal collaboration. And all of a sudden everybody started joining.
cool.
It took a little while, and I know we'll get into this. It took a little while to get the right players on the call. I mean, obviously from illegal, we knew who was to be on the call, but really going forward, it was difficult to get the right people on the call. And how we finally did get the right people on the calls, we would just have an agenda. Here are the items we're going to
Mm.
discuss, and really legal drives those. And so we'd start talking about different things, and no one was on the call to talk about it. So, okay, who from the IT side handles 65 or whatever the topic was? And then I would add them to the distribution group and invite them. And recently we've had our CISO is involved. And our CIO is involved. I mean, they know because we have each of our GCs are on the call. They felt, okay, you've got the GCs. We've got to kind of ramp up our game too to get the right people on the call. It's really turned out to be a positive, and we actually have one tomorrow, and they've turned out to be a really good. Again, it goes to bridging that relationship of understanding each other, and it's been extremely valuable.
That's an impressive lineup, to get the CISO, the GCs. And to your point, it's a testament to eDiscovery that because of the nature of its work, it crosses so many
It does.
functions. It's technical, it's legal. And I find, and I'm curious if you do too, that people will self select or opt in when they start to learn about it. There's certain technical people that actually get excited about it and they realize how much visibility they will get to the org, and maybe they're just curious people and they just kind
Yeah.
of get sucked in.
I think we all have some desire. I think at some point, at some level, there's fear of the unknown, but then when you start actually doing something, it's rather exciting. And I think that's what I have found. We were trying to get the right people on the call or even to help us. It's like trying to get a stubborn donkey in a trailer, and then all of a sudden it's like, hey, this trailer's not too bad,
Yeah.
because it's something new, and it's an extremely challenging industry, but it's very rewarding, and it's actually, I think, kind of fun because it's the best of both worlds between legal and IT.
Another thing you've done to draw people together and capture that alignment is developing a playbook. And I'd like to know
Yeah.
more about how did this start? What prompted you to create it?
Well, as I mentioned earlier, back in the early 2000s, we actually had a playbook for our prior system, and when we decided to implement Exterro several years ago. We have myself, and then we have our commercial bank line, and then we have our mortgage company line. So we have, and then the parent company. So we really have four separate lines of business, and each line of business was doing eDiscovery, but we quickly realized that now that we have one tool to do the entire process, we must come up with a playbook. So we're all doing the
Mm,
same thing, the same way, the same time, over and over and over again. And it has just been an incredible experience. It has brought the eDiscovery team from each entity together, and it has been invaluable. As we have walked through this, we're like, wow, you do it that way? Oh no, you do it that. And then we use some white gloves hours on the front end to get the subject matter experts from Exterro in the room with us just to walk us through and talk through things. Incredible time to do that. But as we've gone through, we're like, okay, this is IT's role. We need to get IT's input on what they want in the playbook. And we've had some rather uh, brisky conversations on the best way to do things. And that's at times we've reached out to the SMEs at Exterro to say, okay, here's how one entity does it. Here's how the other. What, in your opinion, is the best practices? It's been an incredible time just to learn from each other and learn the best practices. And it's going to be invaluable. I think the GCs are now finally like, look, y'all been working on this a year. We think you're just getting together to have lunch and hang out. You need to kind of wrap this up. So we're at the end. We're coming toward the end, and it's significant, and it's going to be good.
So, what are the goals? Like, what's your intention, the outcome? of the playbook? You've talked about, alignment, best practices. What are you hoping to see in terms of improvement? Is it reducing costs? Is it moving faster, or something else?
I think the goal is two things. Number one, it's our vision was to have someone, and this is not to be an exact, but someone could come in, pick up this playbook, and do it.
Yep.
There obviously there are going to be some questions along the way, but primarily they could walk through we start from when we get a matter, from the matter all the way to part of my other role is information governance. Once the matter is over, how do we remediate it? Where do we remediate it? So it's really from a practical perspective. If someone comes in, if I'm not here or when I retire, hopefully, someone has a playbook that they can follow. And also it's for defensibility, reasonableness. I hope to never ever have to produce that, but we have had outside counsel say, "Let me look at that," and we have, and they're like, "Okay, that makes sense." Having it it's kind of a bittersweet, both sides of the coin. If you have something in writing, you better follow it, because it's better to not have it than it is to have it and not follow it. So we're all committed. Each line of business is committed. This is how we're going to do it every single time. So there's the defensibility. And I think in the long run, it probably does have some cost savings to it because it's a repeatable process.
Yeah, I think that definitely is the result that you're going to see. So you have this line I love that I've been excited to share on the podcast, which is there's no such thing as perfect software because it's not going to fix your problems. It just helps you manage them. And where did that philosophy start?
Well, I have to tell another funny. Just yesterday, I received a text from my son who's 20 and he's a junior at a state university here in Texas. And he literally asked me this question. Have you ever run into an information system problem? I'm like, yes, who hasn't? And then he's like, well, could you give me details? Anytime that you have people, hardware, and software, you're going to have problems. I mean, software is not going to fix problems. I mean, it's just, as I said, it's going to help you manage them, because you still have to have, currently, hopefully AI will never take this away, but you still have to have people that are involved in the whole landscape to manage that software. I mean, we have Exterro end to end, but we still have requirements to manage things. It's never going to solve your problems. I would use a farming example. You have a herd of goats and you hire a Great Pyrenees to go and watch these goats and protect them. Well, they will, but you still have to feed and water and love on that dog for them to do their job. It's just not, okay, go turn the dog loose and let them watch the herd. It can't happen that way. It's more integrated. I do have another piece to that. Even though there's no such thing as a perfect software, I think we should always be striving for it too. Each year you all come out with wonderful new products. I would be remiss if I didn't keep looking at those to say, okay, this solves another problem. This is another potential gap. How can I implement this piece into our organization to help mitigate risks?
One of those pieces of software, and it was something that I looked at myself when I was in your shoes in-house at a large company, that has the potential to be a game changer. It can help actually solve a fair number of problems, is the employee change monitor.
Oh, yes.
And I'd love to hear how you're using it and where you're gaining traction, if it is solving problems.
For me personally, when we were going through our proof of concept, when I saw employee change monitor, I said, stop the show, stop it. I don't need to see anything else. I mean, truly, because I think there can be times when you don't have something like that in place, where if a custodian is on hold and they leave, you may never know it. And that is alarming. I think that should keep us all up at night, because if you don't have something like that in place, they could leave, you never know it. Their laptop should have been held. It's redistributed or it's wiped. Truly, when I saw that, it was like, yeah, we've got to have that. And so that's how we currently use it. If there's a title change of someone, especially at the manager level, that's on hold, and they either leave or someone assumes their role, then we are notified, because most of the time, because we're not a large organization, but large enough that we leave it to the managers to help us decide who, if anyone in their department on hold. And so if that manager role changes, then we want to know it. And certainly if an employee who is on hold leaves, we are automatically notified. And it's just been like, can breathe a little easier. There's so many different ways to use it, but those are just a couple of examples of how we use it currently.
Yeah, this information doesn't age well. It's not like wine. Like you need it in the early stages. One of the roles that I think people will be surprised to learn about when you're in-house and doing legal operations is it's critical to your success is the relationship with outside counsel and managing outside counsel. And sometimes I tell people like a lot of times it wasn't just practicing law, it's advising and my clients weren't always business people. Often they were other lawyers. Some of them were in-house and some of them were outside lawyers. And I know that's also true for you. And I'm wondering, what are ways that you have dealt with the pressure of outside counsel bringing opinions or taking positions that you felt they needed to defer to legal operations because they weren't really and truly, a legal risk, but were more operational, for example. How have you dealt with that part of the role?
Well, I think in the outset, I think there's always a proper time to defer things to outside counsel. They're a valuable partner with any organization. But I do have I'd say an incident years ago when I mentioned we were looking to bring eDiscovery in-house. And I'll never forget, the outside counsel was like, wow, are you sure you want to do that? I'm like, why wouldn't I? And they were like, well, there's a lot of risk you're going to take on. I'm like, well, yeah, but don't I have that risk already? I mean, you're not going to take the risk if all these, document collection and processing and review, are you going to take on that risk? I don't think so. I mean, the risk is mine already, so why not save a heck of a lot of cost by keeping it in-house? And so we did. And I don't think that they were necessarily trying to be oppositional, but when you think about it logically, the risk is mine no matter where, no matter what. So yeah.
You're going to have to answer to that. Hopefully not, if and when the time comes.
Yeah.
But so in that sense, tell me how you look at risk from a defensibility perspective. What types of risks are defensible risks?
That's a great question.
Insourcing is one of them, right? You've already talked
Yeah.
about
I mean,
insourcing is a risk, but you decided that there's a defensibility to it, or there's ways to
yeah.
make that risk defensible.
Yeah, that risk I'm willing to take every day because it's such a cost savings. But again, wherever the eDiscovery is, it's my risk. And I think I kind of compartmentalize the two. Legal risk is defensibility. I mean, legal risk is avoiding a legal trouble in my mind, whereas defensibility is we're trying to provide a sound behavior to mitigate that risk. And I think that's where the playbook comes in so valuable, is you're taking on that risk by bringing eDiscovery in-house, but you're building a defensible program that's in writing to help mitigate that risk that you brought in. And I think that's what's really key, and one of the many, many values of having the playbook is it helps mitigate that risk, because the last thing any of us ever want to do or be a part of is in front of some judge on a spoliation or a adverse inference recommendation because something wasn't produced or something was lost. But this will it's not perfect to our prior conversation, but it helps you mitigate that risk.
It's like a almost written transparency.
Yeah.
And that's really, my experience is that if I have transparency to the risk, I can defend it.
That's right. And it's reasonable.
The steps or the process we developed around it. It's the hidden risk where you don't have that that transparency, and maybe because outside counsel is over controlling it, like their
Right.
intent is good,
Right.
but
Yeah.
they're going off and I had a call one time saying the outside counsel wanted to export almost all the documents out of the review system because they needed to print them and put them into witness binders.
Oh my. Yeah.
And
That's great. I'm sure you remember rewinding the clock a bit. When litigation back in the day would go to warehouses with Post-it notes and drag out these banker boxes and tag. Okay, I need 6 copies of that and 6 of these, and it's like, oh, I'm so thankful those days are over. Sorry, I digressed back in time a bit.
well, things have changed a lot.
Thankfully, yes, they have.
Some of the issues haven't changed, they just
Right.
changed
Well,
form.
well, and to your point that the risk and the defensibility that has not changed, and nor I don't think will it ever.
Well, looking back on your journey from paralegal to director, um, at a major financial institution, what's the one piece of advice that you would give someone who's earlier in their career and wants to follow a similar path?
I would say look for opportunities to where you can add value to your organization and be willing to take a risk or take risk and speak up. Our CEO here all the time says if you see something, speak up.
Yep.
And he truly means it. And so I think also networking in this industry is paramount. Attend conferences, never stop learning, look at certifications that you can do, whether it's a certified eDiscovery specialist, IGP. Go to conferences. Those are so valuable where you can, it's like group therapy to me. It's like, okay, when you hear people talk, it's like, well, I guess we're not too bad after all.
Yeah.
But it's such a tight, loving family that you can learn so much. So I would say definitely do more networking and don't be afraid to speak up. Volunteer. Sometimes if you're not volunteering, you're voluntold, so you'd be rather volunteer. So
Well, we're so glad that you're part of this family and this industry and that you've spent time sharing your words of wisdom. There's so much more that I know that you have to share. But I'm grateful that we got the time together we got. And I thank you for coming on.
well, it's been an honor and a privilege. It really has. Thank you for the invitation. And truly, I feel like I not feel like I am among eDiscovery royalty. So thank you.
Thank you, Patrick. So, if you took one thing from today, let it be this: litigation readiness is a function of design. The right playbook doesn't just help you manage eDiscovery, it makes you faster, smarter, and more defensible. Thanks again to Patrick for this incredible insight, and thank you for listening to Data Exposure, brought to you by Exterro, the industry's leading data risk management platform. Follow and share if this helped you reframe how you think about litigation readiness. And remember, what's hiding in your data could cost you everything.